Hello, travelers. What are you doing here?
Hello.
Oh, you want to come and join us and join us as we discuss?
Hey. Oh no, scoot over. Make room.
Yep.
Make room.
Come on over. Yeah, come up to the table and join us as we discuss Homebrew for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. My name is Thomas the Human Bard. I am joined today by
Mercy, the Tiefling Wizard.
You're very far from the microphone. I don't know if anyone heard that.
I'm Mercy, the Tiefling Wizard.
There we go.
Onog, the half-orc barbarian.
And being the rock gnome rogue, I got nice and close to the microphone to say that one.
Why are you so far away from the microphone, Bean?
But screaming at the top
Yeah, it
of your
sounds
lungs.
like you're whispering. You're like 3 rooms away from us. Come on up. What are you doing? I just hear the echo of you so quietly.
Being the rock gnome rogue. All right, now.
Now you're far too close to the microphone.
Yeah, back up, dude.
All right. I noticed, Onog, you had made a friend the other day. An interesting looking fella.
We were all so proud of you, by the way.
Yeah. First of all,
Look,
congratulations.
thank you. Well, it's not often that I go outside my comfort zone, but in my search to brew the unbrewable, I've actually returned to an old friend. You just haven't seen him for a very long time. He is my Thri-Kreen friend, the playable race. That's just his name. It's confusing.
You have three friends?
Thri-Kreen, the playable race, is the full
The,
name,
like,
or is it the
Yeah.
playable race first?
The playable race, the Thri-Kreen.
Okay, great.
He has multiple thes in his name.
I see.
That's a power
But
move.
so on that note, we have talked about Thri-Kreens before, but in my eternal search for the unbrewable, I saw this one pop up on Unearthed Arcana on Reddit, and I wanted to bring this to the group to just kind of showcase another example of what someone else can do with the same source material that other homebrewers are making. Mm-hmm. So, and the 90% of the reason I chose this is because this was submitted to the subreddit Unearthed Arcana by the user _snugs_.
Love it.
Snugs.
And that just made me laugh uncontrollably, and so now we're studying Thri-Kreens again.
Nice. For people who maybe aren't familiar with just generically the idea of Thri-Kreens, could we give just sort of a broad description?
So Thri-Kreen basically are based off of a creature in the monster manual of the same name. They are an insectoid humanoid race. They live in the deserts. They are super freaky weird. Imagine like the sand people from Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind
plus
of
bug.
like praying mantis folk.
Yeah, like praying mantis folk is the thing.
I believe last time we discussed the Thri-Kreen, we titled them the Big Buggy Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which we also established was a racial slur against them.
Oh, right.
But
Sorry. My bad. I apologize to the Thri-Kreen community.
We have to do a YouTube apology video.
The Thri-Kreen community is called the Swarm, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's actually very good. I like that.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that's the first time he's ever said anything like that.
All right, so let's start.
He's like, I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true, but I'm
dubiously
going
to
to move
camera.
on.
He's like, I've always been very supportive of you. What's wrong with you?
Could you imagine a version of this show where we're on screen and all of us just look dead into camera in Jim Halpert fashion as Bean says that?
I would love that.
We would all just be taking turns being Jim Halpert.
Yeah. You're right.
All right, so to the task at hand.
Yeah.
So the first paragraph starts it right off with kind of both a mechanical and also background kind of explanation thing. Wordless wanderers. The Thri-Kreen language is one without words, instead employing subtle clicks and clacks, utilizing their mandibles to portray how they feel to others of the same race. This does not mean that they cannot learn normal languages, such as Common, but it does suggest that adopting such a language may be more difficult for a Thri-Kreen than most other races.
I just had an idea for a magic item. It's a robe that when you put it on, you can speak Thri-Kreen. It's called the Click Clack Cloak.
Good work, thank
I
you.
just came up with that right now. I'm
That's so good.
funny.
That was
seen you pose. I don't even know how to describe it.
I sort of did a flex with my whole body. Continue,
Oh my
Odog.
gosh.
Not
Alright.
to take you off track here.
You're good. So, next paragraph. Lonesome hunters. Thri-Kreen consider all other creatures as potential meals, delighting particularly in elven flesh.
Oh my
Sort
gosh.
of a lizard folk kind of.
You know,
Yeah.
for some reason, it got way creepier when they specified a preference.
Correct.
It's like, they eat flesh. Oh, that's fine. They really like elf flesh. I'm like, oh, stop. Okay, you know what? You're making it weird.
No.
Yeah, oh no. Like, they have tasted enough humanoids to have a preference.
Yeah, it's far
Suddenly
worse.
becomes so much worse. But this is not to say that Thri-Kreen are homicidal at heart. They kill exclusively for nourishment, not sport.
So if you got 3-Kreen friends, you gotta have snacks on you at all
You
times.
you have to have snacks. I believe
I've
the
seen-
one time we did have a 3-Kreen player in one of my campaigns, we were doing like a Suicide Squad-esque thing where they all had to come up with reasons they had been arrested. And the 3-Kreen came up with the reason that he had gotten into an argument with a shop vendor and ate him.
Well, he like killed him in battle and then just proceeded to eat the body.
Yeah, like
the
they
way
got
that-
into an argument.
The way that the paragraph is laid out here, because I was just looking at delighting particularly in elven flesh, and I didn't like keep reading left to right. I just skipped down and just saw 3-Kreen are homicidal at heart, and I was like, I don't remember that from the last time we talked about them.
They are unloving killing machines.
They have no souls. The,
Everyone hears the 3-Kreen stomach rumble and like throws jerky at him, and they're like, "No!"
There's like a classic series of like lizard folk memes on like D&D meme Reddits and things like that, where it's just like the party like burying their close dear friend NPC who died sacrificing themselves to save the world, and it's like all of the Fellowship of the Ring like crying over Gandalf's death. And then it's like the lizard folk getting ready for lunch, and it's that image of the guy pouring oil in a spoon. He's like getting a meal ready. He's like, oh yeah. We're just gonna bury them? Wait, this is a perfectly good meal
what a
right
waste
here.
of meat.
It's like, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but would you rather I ate someone who was currently alive?
Come on, who else is gonna be eating this guy?
Reuse, reduce,
So-
recycle.
So speaking of homicidal maniacs, the next paragraph is emotionally suppressed.
Same.
While they
They're British.
while they feel emotions in similar ways to other humanoid races, 3-Kreen are less likely to display emotional outbursts. Although the psionic variations do display more emotions than their normal kin.
They kind of are British. They won't show their emotion, and they eat terrible food.
they're desert
Dunking
British.
on all of our British listeners.
All of our, statistically, there've got to be, 2.5 of you?
Statistically, at least one. And to you, I say, you shouldn't have lost the Revolutionary War.
Wow.
I ask
okay.
you, why did you colonize the planet for their spices, only to decide you didn't like any of them?
All right,
Yeah.
let's not get too political about things that happened 200 years ago.
Fair enough.
I'm still
All right.
very bitter about the Revolutionary War.
You
Just
say
get
that,
our
but
teeth
like,
instead.
yeah,
half
of America is still
It's, like,
very
super
bitter about the
bitter about it.
Revolutionary
Fair.
War.
Dump the tea into the sea.
Okay.
Dump the tea.
3-Kreen. Oh, dog. What's the next
3-Kreen
one?
names.
Why'd we get so
So-
weird about that? That was crazy. All right, 3-Kreen names, yeah.
Due to their alien native language, 3-Kreen who intend to interact with other intelligent species adopt names given to them by allies and friends. These names may be those befitting of other races or simple words that describe the 3-Kreen's behavior or appearance. So far it's very interesting because it just establishes they don't have names, they don't have emotions, they just kind of do whatever.
They do delight in elf flesh, so they do have
And
at
they
least one
delight
emotion.
in elf flesh.
Man flesh.
I would like to propose an alternative to this narrative that's being presented here, is that 3-Kreen totally all have names, it's just that the other humanoids cannot pronounce them, so
Oh,
they
for
just
sure.
call them something else.
You need
Yeah, I
like
think that's what's
14
happening.
mandibles to say their name, and they're just like, you're botching it so bad. Please, just, it's terrible to listen to.
But like, I love that it could be like, you're Jim. You're just Jim the 3-Kreen. Or they're like, well, the first time we saw him, he was sitting in a chair, and so we call him Bug Man. Like, but like, it's like, he likes to jump around a lot, so we call him Hops. Is like
Well, wasn't the Thri-Kreen in our campaign? His name was Clicks. I
Yeah.
think it was literally just the noise he makes.
Fair enough. And that's sort of, similar to, like, Kenku naming conventions as well.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. All right, what other traits, Onog? Hit me with.
All right, so now let's delve into the nitty-gritty. So, already, it's interesting to note, so the reason I picked this Thri-Kreen class the reason I picked this Thri-Kreen race is because it actually has sub-races, as opposed to the previous ones we've looked at, where they were just each their own full race.
so it's got like the chubby and slippery variants.
Gotcha.
Sort of. It seems to have...
The
It
clicky
seems to
and
have-
the clacky.
Yeah,
It has, it's the clicky and the clacky. It's more like the chonky, and then two different versions of slippery.
Okay.
Actually, I guess it could be chonky, slippery, and spicy.
Yeah. Well, it can't be spicy. They're British.
No.
Peanut butter is too spicy.
Okay.
They've got
Man.
chunky, slippery, and brown sauce.
And Marmite or whatever.
Marmite. Interesting.
Jeez.
Is that a British thing?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Marmite's British. Vegemite's Australian.
Okay, that's what I was. Yeah, I was confused.
All right. So, like other Thri-Kreen,
I wouldn't want to be offensive. to
Come
any
on,
of those
okay.
groups.
Mercy.
all right. I'm
sorry.
trying to move through a text box here.
Sorry.
All right. So the main stats they get are dexterity increases by 2 and wisdom increases by 1. This is similar to one that we've looked at before, and kind of based off of the Monster Manual stat. These are the 2 highest stats that the Thri-Kreen has. So it's most likely the best thing that we're gonna get.
It makes sense.
That's. But it is interesting to note that it has sub-races, but the sub-races do not have variance in the ability score increases that they get. These are the ones that all Thri-Kreen have, and they just differ in abilities instead of the score.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So age, they only have a lifespan of 30 years because it's live fast, die young amongst Thri-Kreen apparently.
Well, bugs, they've got a quick turnaround.
Yeah, quick turnaround. They have dark vision out to 60 feet.
Yeah.
Just like normal, standard dark vision.
It's like every
Size,
bee.
Thri-Kreen are all medium-sized and vary from very light to moderately heavy kind of a thing. So they have proficiency in exotic weaponry, and this is something that I think every version of the Thri-Kreen we've looked at has had, where they gain 2 weapon proficiencies with 2 new weapons. It's the Githka and the Chakcha. Basically, the Chachka is a throwing short sword, and the Githka is a weak reach weapon.
Okay.
It's kind of, as you can see in the picture there, it's
A
holding both
death
of them.
frisbee and a death Q-tip.
Yeah, death frisbee, death Q-tip. Now, here we get the interesting thing that this kind of separates this one from previous ones we've looked at. So, 4-armed combatant. You have 2 pairs of arms, one much stronger than the other, that you may use simultaneously in combat. Your small arms cannot bear the weight of heavy weapons, shields, or 2-handed ranged weapons.
Oh,
So
so you
with
get
this
multiple
one-
weapons drawn at a time.
That's cool.
Yeah, you can have
You
multiple
can have
weapons drawn at
free
a time.
hands.
You can have
Forehands.
your knives and your bow ready.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I think this is honestly, it has its own weird implications about what those hands do, though. Especially compared to the previous ones, but it's much more elegant than some of the previous ones we've looked at. Because the previous ones were like, your hands are weak and they can't do this. They can only do object interactions. Whereas this just goes, you can just hold extra stuff.
Yeah.
It's fine. If you wanted to make an attack with those instead of your normal attack action, it's fine.
Like, you
Yeah.
can't carry a great sword in your tiny hands, but, like, you can carry a dagger.
You can carry daggers or short swords.
Like, if you
or-
can carry a
And
book,
really-
you
Or
can carry a
tchotchkes.
knife.
Having like an interesting thing is I think sometimes you see where like people like to like walk on eggshells around certain issues, but really at the end of the day, having 2 kinds of weapons both drawn at the same time like doesn't break the game. Like you just get to pick which one you
mean,
want on a turn. Really. Like,
yeah,
it's
there's
not-
like a whole
it's
there's a
not
whole
the worst
feat.
thing. Yeah.
There's a whole feat based around being able to just
They're
draw
not feet,
extra
they're
weapons.
arms.
Look,
Okay.
listen here.
Okay.
I have not recovered from the weed cleric episode.
Oh boy.
Neither have I, apparently. Oh my gosh. That got
like-
me so good.
Like you might have some people who would immediately get all up in a fluster about like, oh, but this is too powerful because you can do this and have a spell hand and do it. And I don't think that breaks down to enough actual mechanical power to matter. It's just mostly going to come up for flavor, and having both a sword and a bow out at the same time, meaning you don't have to draw it with an object interaction, like doesn't really take away from moment to moment.
If anything, it streamlines your own behavior in gameplay with the way this is worded.
And you can't attack with them all just because like that's just how that.
Yeah, you only get if you're a monk,
per
you
turn.
get 2 attacks. If you're a rogue, you only get 1 in a bonus action.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
No big deal.
So yeah. So the next one is Sleepless. Now here's where it starts getting weird. Thri-Kreen do not require sleep. When you take a long rest, you may spend time tending to wounds or partaking in light activities such as keeping watch. So, like, even more so than elves, these things don't sleep. They don't even meditate. They just kind of hang around you guys while you all fall unconscious for 8 hours.
Which is
Well,
a very real thing that bugs do. Like,
Interestingly enough,
yeah.
like there has been this back and forth about whether or not an elf can gain the benefits of a full long rest in half the time and all that kind of like problem with how that's worded. Whereas this one actually, like as it's worded, presents to me they still have to take a full long rest. They're just free to not be asleep during it.
They're just hanging out.
You still need to
But-
set aside 8 hours to recover, but you can be conscious during those 8 hours.
Yeah, but this one doesn't create the problems the elf one does, which is a strange sort of
Right.
blurry area of like, wait a minute, but
What
if I
can you
do this
notice?
and how
You meditate for 4 hours, but then for another 4 hours you just kind of have to hang out.
Yeah, and they've gone back and forth on yes, you can achieve a full long rest in half the time, and no, you can't. You have to be hanging out doing light activity for the rest of the time. And it's always up in the air which side that they take on. Jeremy Crawford.
Now, it is something-
opposing answers on Twitter multiple times.
And that's just frustrating. But it is interesting to note, and this is probably just a wording issue on this, but if I remember correctly, anything that talks about the long rest ability or modulates it also usually mentions the amount of time that it takes to have a long rest, whereas this one really doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of that wording needs to be addressed or something like that. But I like this. I mean, it's basic. It's kind of like just an extra version of what we thought elves were like anyways.
Yeah. I honestly think this would be a better version for the elf thing. Just say, like, you can spend that time doing light meditation. Like, if it was worded like this, it'd be much more obvious what they meant.
Like what
about
the
it.
intent was
Yeah.
of the ability.
Definitely.
I do want to jump in here for the credits. We credited Snugs. I don't remember if we credited Equally Delightful Floppadoops 44.
Floppadoops 44 in the credits box at the end of the...
Floppadoops is a very fun name. Good job.
Floppadoops
picking
is
that
very
name.
good, yeah.
A beautiful name. Snugs.
Snugs and Floppadoops 44.
All right.
All right.
That means there's 43 other Floppadoops.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've met a few.
It's a common name. It's a very common name.
Yeah, here
If
here in Copper Fox Inn, it's a very common name.
Okay. Can't believe you never had Floppadoops in your class.
Well, I've been social distancing for the past 8 years.
That's true.
That is previously established in the lore.
All right. And so the final one of the main Thri-Kreen traits is languages. You can speak, read, and write Thri-Kreen.
Okay.
You will notice it does not say common.
Does not say and common.
So you have to learn common through either your background or with your adventures.
Yes.
And I actually
spend downtime
flavor-wise
learning it, or take it with your background or something.
Flavor-wise, I actually like that. Another thing, another race that has a situation like this is the Grung race. That is like the most official, unofficial D&D race you can get because it was made by Wizards of the Coast developers. And the Grung race also does not naturally speak Common.
Yep.
So they have to learn it.
Now you could, of course, certain classes or backgrounds might give you an extra
Mostly it's your
language.
background grants you additional languages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you're really desperate to speak Common, you may just have to pick a background that gives you another language.
But that's the thing is I would love to pick a background that gives you 2 different languages, but you still don't pick
Yeah,
Common.
you're like,
and so you can only talk to the elf because you both happen to speak Elvish.
I speak Common, I speak Thri-Kreen, Gnomish, and Infernal.
Undercommon.
Now it is interesting to note in comparison to other attempts to make Thri-Kreen races and even I believe the monster manual itself, this one doesn't say that the Thri-Kreen can't learn how to speak another language.
Yeah.
It just says that it would be very difficult, whereas previously they say you just can't. The only thing you can make is the clicky noises with your mouth. I think the implication isn't that, like, there's a bunch of clicks and pops and clacks and stuff. It's that physically our mouths are not the same shape, so they can't make the same
They just
noise.
have mandibles.
Yeah, they just have the
Yeah.
mandibles. Yeah.
I think that's the implication.
Or
But-
womandibles.
But
Well,
that's the thing though, is I think to make
It's not
it
that good.
playable though, it would be easier if we did just interpret it
Mhm.
more as a language and not like a physical difference, because
Yeah.
that's one of those things. I am personally of the opinion that things like, oh, you can't speak common, and even like super short lifespans and things, I'm not always a huge fan of those in player races, because I think that they can seem like cool ideas but sort of get in the way and make gameplay more clunky.
Yeah. You think it'll provide some interesting
But it's just
requirements to
annoying to
gameplay,
keep up
but it's
with.
just a more annoying.
Yeah, it is a little annoying to
something.
keep
but
up
it
with.
depends on how it's implemented, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely depends on how you play it. It can be very cool. Like I said, I've DM'd for a Thri-Kreen character, and it was actually super cool because we had, I believe we talked about this in the last episode too. We had a warlock of the we had an eldritch warlock that was able to read his mind and communicate to the rest of the party what he was saying, kind of a thing. And so like that allowed for a unique interaction between two players that wouldn't have otherwise taken place. But then I can also see on the other side of the coin where then it becomes the discussion of like player knowledge versus character knowledge separation, where it's like, I, the player, know what Kevin is talking about.
Yeah.
But my Thri-Kreen doesn't understand common, so I can't know what he's talking about. You know, stuff like that.
Definitely.
And
I
at
actually-
a certain point, I would allow it. You just have to allow it to be for role playing purposes, and then at another certain point, you just have to go. I assume that your friends translate for you as this is going on.
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
that kind of stuff. I've actually been DMing recently a game in which some of the characters have a vow of silence and they talk only through sign language. But none of the players in the party speak it. These are NPCs that do this. But they are with the party currently. And for the sake of everyone's sanity, I just give far more intuitive descriptions of the sign language than would be reasonable.
To the players.
Like, yeah, the players, I say, he does a series of signs and gestures, and you can get the rough interpretation that he seems to want you to follow him. Like, it's close enough. It makes it flavorful and interesting to interact with without taking away basic day-to-day activity
Right.
ability. If there was very, very specific information that needed to be conveyed, that might create a skill situation in which you have to try and figure it out. But when it's just like he says to stop, he hears something. He holds up his hand, you understand he wants you to stop. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like at a certain point, that's just up to the discretion of the DM and the players themselves. Like I've played a character that has taken a vow of silence as well, and I just describe what he does. I'm not just sitting there not talking to my fellow players.
exactly, yeah.
Just scrolling Instagram, not
Just scrolling Instagram, being quiet. Yeah, but anyway, so now let's dive into the sub races.
All right,
After
there
all
are
of that discussion,
Three
there are
sub-races?
3 sub races.
Awesome.
There's-
Hit me with them.
So, Swift Striders. So this is where we start getting more of the abilities that we thought, hey, that was missing. Long Stride. Your walking speed increases to 40 feet.
Okay.
And then Powerful Leap. Your long jump is up to 30 feet, and your high jump is 15 feet, with or without a running start.
I see.
And this is similar to an ability they have in the monster stat block, that they can just straight up jump. And this is similar to Grung and the Bullywug abilities as well.
I really like this because I can already see how this is formatting itself. Where if you put every Thri-Kreen ability on a player race,
Then it's
there's
too powerful.
Too many of them. But if you as the player have to pick essentially one or two of those abilities
Yeah.
to be the ones that you like the most, that you want to be part of it, it's just that your version of that like creature is more focused on that ability.
Is more
Because
specialized.
if every like the leap, like you said, it's in the monster manual. So if every subrace had the leap, it would be too good. if you want the leap, you have to commit to this, which means you lose out on some of the other interesting ones.
On some of the other abilities.
Which I think then as a DM, if you had a player who was doing this, you would just incorporate that into the world building with other Thri-Kreen that you meet. Like,
Yeah.
I would treat it more like a cultural thing where it's like, well, I trained in this.
Yeah.
I am
path,
the
so this
strider,
is-
and
yeah.
he is the hider.
And so that it isn't like all other Thri-Kreen can do all of those things and you can't.
You could even, with Thri-Kreen, you could do something really cool where, like, I know with some insects, they have, like, different, like, they call it, like morphs, where it's like when a bee is deciding, like, what to grow into as a pupa, it, like, chooses, like, it can choose the queen morph to, like, become
Like,
the
the
queen.
difference between a queen, a drone, or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
worker bees.
And it's not
Well-
it's not really like genders as like humans understand it. It's just these like different types of body it can develop for like ants. Like the different worker ants have different bodies to do their abilities, and so it's like these could be the different kind of morphs in the
That's
Thri-Kreen
cool.
culture.
I like that
So,
idea.
Yeah.
in bees specifically, what they do is there's a thing called royal jelly. And the larvae that are chosen to potentially become queens are fed royal jelly instead of the normal stuff that they feed the larvae. And the royal jelly will cause the bodies of these larvae to develop differently.
Yeah.
I want to
yeah.
clarify, I just want everyone to know that my Burt's Bees lotion has royal jelly in it, and that means I'm the queen.
At least just your lips are.
I
My
want
skin is the queen.
I want to clarify real quick that I am currently in my mind confusing royal jelly with royal icing, and I'm
They're the same thing.
I'm confused about what I've eaten at cakes.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
what was on those cakes?
Yep. Bees.
Beef.
Just been eating ground up queen bees.
Oh!
So, on that note, the next morph, or subrace, is the chameleon. And they gain the ability that is also an ability in the monster manual, but this is a little bit different. The chameleon carapace. As a bonus action, you can change the color of your carapace to match the color and texture of your surroundings. When
Very
you do, you have advantage on dexterity stealth checks made to hide until the start of your next turn. And then expert tracker. You have proficiency in your choice of the stealth or survival skills. So this lets you double down on stealth, because not only can you then use a bonus action to give yourself advantage, you can also be proficient in stealth if you want to.
Very good. Very good.
So
I
that's
love
the
the
slippery.
like blending in. Like that's great. Very
Yeah.
like Predator almost. You know, you just like
Totally.
That's very
disappear
cool.
into the forest.
Yeah, also very terrifying.
Yes.
But yeah, and it's
Well,
one of those things where it's like both this and the Long Strider are abilities that are granted, but if you had both of them, that would actually kind of be unfeasible.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't want to give that power to someone that is homicidal at heart, as we have established through
They're
Treenar.
not homicidal. They're not.
Well,
It just says they usually aren't homicidal
and
at heart.
in all honesty, that probably means they're opportunistic feeders.
Look. What adventuring party isn't homicidal at heart?
Show me the party.
Show me
If
a
they're
party.
they're like, I'm a Thri-Kreen, I'm not homicidal at heart, and they're like, oh, you can't be an adventurer.
Look, we're gonna kill a lot of shopkeepers.
I'm not gonna lie, the campaign I run with you guys, I keep trying to push you to be more and more homicidal, but you guys keep flashing out against me.
We have such a pacifist party, it's kind of ridiculous.
Having
So
one
it's-
character
it's
committed to
interesting.
pacifism really threw a wrench in that.
Well,
Don't worry.
The party.
One
Don't worry,
character is
it
a
might not be in the
pacifist,
future.
and the rest are like realists, so they're like, you hear a stirring off the trail, and we're like, oh, we better not go over there. We heard there's mountain lions here.
It's like, we're definitely not gonna check that out. Our characters would definitely survive a horror movie.
Fair enough.
Yep. Alright, and now the final subrace is Psionic. So, Psionics, you know the Mage Hand cantrip. The hand is invisible, as is always added to every ability except for the Mage Hand cantrip
Except
spell
when
itself.
mages use it.
So I don't know why that's not just the thing that they have it be. When you reach 3rd level, you can cast the Blur spell once
with this.
with this trait. Oh, it's
There's
one.
no
It's
space.
misspelled. And regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. When you reach 5th level, you can cast the invisibility spell once with this trait and regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. Intelligence is your spellcasting ability for these spells. Telepathy. You can telepathically communicate to any creature you can see. within 60
Okay,
feet.
so they don't have to speak common.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
so yeah, this is the other thing where it's like if you want to counteract the weaknesses, you can then utilize this.
I understand that Chameleon lets you do this much more often. But if you can, like, blur yourself and turn invisible, why would you ever choose Chameleon over Psionic?
So blur doesn't turn you invisible. Blur makes it look like there's two of you and grants attacks against you disadvantage.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I guess to me that serves a very similar category
Yeah.
of ability.
I was going to bring that up too. Yeah, where it's like Chameleon lets you do it every turn, basically.
So you can either do it often and it's not as powerful, or you can do more powerful things less frequently.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And to be fair, there is always the player-oriented option of, like, some players won't want to play a psionic bug. They'll want to play a fighter bug with no magic. And it's just, like, will feel better to them if it's...
And they're just like, I just want to be sneaky.
Yeah, they're just, I'm good at sneaky, not I cast a spell. Yeah. They'll feel better about that choice.
And that being said, you're like, one of, you know, in an anti-magic field, the psionic one wouldn't be able to use their invisibility, whereas the other would just be able to change their color because it's a biological reaction.
You're always thinking about them anti-magic fields. I'm not as worried about them. You're saying that those anti-magic fields, but I have this tinfoil hat and it's not going to be a problem.
Anti-magic fields are kind of the Forgotten Realms version of, like, quicksand, where everyone tells you it's going to be a big problem. It's going to come up all the
Doesn't
time.
really happen.
It very rarely happens.
If you've ever had that come up, tell us about it in the comments.
Look,
There is an entire spell about creating an anti-magic field, and there is an entire race of monsters.
it
Sure,
does come
but
up.
it still
That
just
shoot
doesn't
it.
come up very often.
It does come up, just like how quicksand comes up in real life, but, you know, far less
Just
often.
not as much as you thought it would.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just whenever you're making, you ask someone, you're like, should I do this? And, you know, should I make this character or this character? And they're like, oh, well, if you get an anti-magic area, then you won't be able to do that. And then you're like, oh, you're right. And then, of course, it never happens.
never
It
once
doesn't
comes
come
up.
up.
All right, Onog, so what do you think about how they've handled this Thri-Kreen? What do you think is better or more interesting, or what's different about it from the previous one we discussed?
It is interesting. I like the creation of the sub-races. I think that is a very elegant
I like it
solution
too.
to the
I think it's
problem
really
that that a monster manual race becoming a player race presents. And in and of itself, doing that allows you to then make the other abilities more powerful because they are being specialized in.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if we were to try and cram all of these together, we would probably only be able to get like one half of what the abilities even are capable of doing.
Because if you're
And so I
cramming them
think-
all together, they'd all have to be, like, neutered
They'd all have to
somehow,
be
where it's
weaker in order
you could
to
do your
balance it out.
powerful leap once a week. Like,
Yeah.
And that doesn't
which
feel good
which
as a
isn't going to
player.
make
Yeah.
anyone feel good about that
No.
ability.
Exactly.
But making it more often to, making stuff more potent, more usable, but you're specialized in that, I think is a much better reaction than I think a lot of people are out there doing. Other than, of course, just making the Thri-Kreen overpowered by giving them all of the stats that they have.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because, like, this one doesn't even touch on, like, the poison bite that they have. And but you didn't even notice that it was missing, kind of a thing, because
that's
of
true.
how
There's enough
good
there, yeah.
the sub races were evened out.
Yeah.
I like it. I think I agree with you. It's a very sleek design that lends itself to player expression of, like, which part of the monster speaks to you. Is, like, you're allowed to have that part and have a good working version of it. You don't have to make a sacrifice of if the jumping speaks to you, you don't have to get a terrible version of it. You can get a good
Right.
actual real version of that.
I really enjoy modular subclasses that
Yeah.
let you kind of customize and pick and choose.
This is a sub race, to be fair.
I also
This
I
is
don't
a
enjoy
race.
it actually
Oh,
in that
never mind.
case. I don't enjoy modular
This is
subraces
terrible.
or
If I
races,
can't
yeah.
if I can't multi-class into Thri-Kreen, I don't want to do it.
I don't care.
You multi-class and suddenly you start growing tiny arms out of your chest.
No, guys.
No.
And now we come to the ultimate problem. Thri-Kreen. That is just 3 halflings in a trench
No,
coat.
they
Wait a
can do
minute.
that because they have the other arms. Very easy
are
for them
all
to do
three
that.
Kreen just 3 halflings in a trench coat? They've got the multiple sets of
So
arms.
I like misread it kind of looking at it from the side where I'm at and where it says Thri-Kreen. I read Thri-Karen and I don't want to see 3 Karens in a trench
no.
coat.
Yikes.
Oh
that's
my
too
gosh,
powerful.
That's a big
Challenge
yikes.
rating
That's a boss
30.
battle.
Yeah.
No,
And I was saving the credits until the very end because I tantalized you with Snugs.
Oh,
And I
Oh,
wanted to
sorry.
surprise.
we've
It's
stolen
fine.
it from you.
I wanted to surprise you with Flappadoops 44.
My apologies.
Very
Because
good.
I think every person who's made a Thri-Kreen race that has gotten on the show has had a gloriously ridiculous username.
Yeah.
Maybe they're being made by Thri-Kreen, and those are very normal Thri-Kreen names.
Yeah, have you
Yeah,
considered
these
that?
are
No,
these
those
are
are
our
the rep-
perfectly normal screen.
That's the weird normal names that they've picked. They're like,
Right.
your Thri-Kreen name is, and you're like, just call me Snugs. You're like,
Call me Floppadoops.
But I already know 43 Floppadoops. Call me Floppadoops 44 then.
If it helps you keep track, call me Floppadoops 44. Great. I like it. Well, if you enjoyed this race, listeners, comment below with your thoughts on it. How well do you think they tackled the challenge of bringing a Thri-Kreen into the player race options? Which aspects do you think they handled well, and which do you think could use some work? Comment below and let us know your thoughts. Like the video and subscribe for future D&D homebrew discussion content. Remember to send us your homebrews to our email, thecopperfoxinn@gmail.com, or on social media @thecopperfoxinn. And until next time,
Thanks for chiming in, buddy.
are you gonna put subtitles?